My boyfriend and I went on the same flight, but he had mistakenly booked his seat right in front of me. A nice flight attendant noticed that we were together, and she told us that the plane wouldn't be full, so she'd inform us if 2 adjacent seats would become available. It was a small plane and had 2 seats on each side of the aisle. While my boyfriend was loading our baggage in the overhead bin, a woman sat on the window seat of his row. I thought it might be a good chance to sit together. I mustered up all the courage I had in me and started to talk to her. "Hello ma'am. Will it be alright if you switch seats with?" "No. I don't want to switch seats. I want my window seat," she said haughtily and proceeded to stare out the window. This discouraged me because I'm wary of confrontations. I decided to shut up. However, the flight attendant from before was behind us, and made way to the woman. "Good morning, ma'am. This lady asking. I don't want to switch seats. I booked a seat, and I want my reserved seat." She angrily announced this without even looking away from the window. The attendant, still cheerful, said, "Of course, ma'am, you have the right to your reserved seat. May I please see your boarding pass?" The woman crisply presented her boarding pass. "Okay, ma'am. You may proceed to 19C, which is this seat," the FA explained, pointing to the aisle seat. The woman was stunned, mouth moving inaudibly. She even looked frantically around for the seat number, then at her pass. But as expected, the FA was right. After a few seconds, she hastily and violently, there was a lot of unnecessary sound of hitting stuff, moved to 19C. My boyfriend sat beside her, on the window seat of course. She spent the next boarding minutes just bowing her embarrassed head down her phone. The FA gave me a devilishly knowing smile, and I whispered a thank you. When all the passengers had boarded, she moved to an aisle seat way ahead of us. There were actually 3 window seats near us, but I guess she was too ashamed to take them. My boyfriend moved to the seat beside me. If she just pressed pause on her arrogant attitude and tried to listen to me or the FA, she would be sitting on my window seat. My husband of 2 months and I looked forward to our first vacation as a married couple. My family was going to Hawaii and paid for our plane tickets so we could go. Everything was fine until we met up with my younger sister. She was absolutely horrible to my husband, and her toxic behavior resulted in the rest of the family also treating him bad. He was so unhappy, he wanted to buy a plane ticket and leave the second day we were there. We stuck through the vacation and enjoyed the days when my sister wasn't there. When preparing to leave, my sister came to give me a hug. I knew she was a huge Marvel fan and had not seen Endgame yet. Instead of hugging her, I leaned toward her ear and said, "Tony dies." Her face was priceless. So, I don't normally post about my job on here, but this story is too good to pass up. I work LP for a major retail store. Today, a person, who is trespassed, came in and stole a couple of items. When I went to confront the person, they of course ran from me. While on the phone with the local PD, the shoplifter is fumbling through their car. I tell everyone to go inside just in case things turn violent and keep PD updated on what's happening. The shoplifter comes back from their car, walks back up to me, and says verbatim, "Please do not call the cops. I left my keys in the store and I can't run away." DL, doctor, don't decide to shoplift and run when you lose your keys in the store. My employees and are big fans of this sub, and we try to maliciously comply at work for fun. So, I have a few employees, and on busy days at work one of us will go to the Winn-Dixie, which is about a 1/4 mile away, to grab lunch for us to eat when we have a lull in customers. I have a new girl that works the counter while me and the guys basically do grunt work. I asked her to grab my wallet and run to get lunch from the deli. She leaves and comes back in a sweaty mess. Florida is darn hot. To get in on the malicious compliance, she literally ran to Winn-Dixie and back. Not the most hyperbolic compliance, but compliance nonetheless. One thing I like about working in hotels is the chance to interact with foreign guests. I have been invited to stay with guests in Australia, Poland, and Saudi Arabia. A guest from Germany baked for the employees, and some guests from Japan have absolutely sold me on the idea of moving there as things don't get better here. I have lots of funny and heartwarming stories about guests from other countries. But this isn't one of them. We had 3 ladies from China come to the hotel for an extended stay. They always walked in a triangle formation, with one lady always at the head and the other 2 never getting in front of her. Perhaps it was because she spoke English the best, or that she behaved like a high school mean girl, probably a combination of the 2. I called her the Queen Bee. Now these ladies starting taking items from the housekeeping carts. The hotel was set up with different buildings. There was the main one where guests check in and where hotel supplies were stored, but guests stayed in separate buildings. And if the housekeeper had to refill her cart, she had to walk a ways, especially if she was assigned the last building. I had a good relationship with the housekeepers and they told me the women kept taking their things. I had my co-worker, who was fluent in Mandarin, call them and tell them to stop. Now my co-worker was overly polite and while the women agreed to stop they went right back at it the next day. The housekeepers came to me at the front desk and said that the women were stockpiling all supplies they could get from the cart to the point that a closet was full of hotel supplies. This is before COVID-19 and the great DP shortage of 2020. I called the room and demanded to speak to Queen Bee. I said that if they took one more thing from housekeeping that no one would go clean their rooms. They would have to clean up after themselves, change their own sheets, and scrub their own toilet. I was done with them. Queen Bee said she didn't know how to contact the front desk to ask for things, which was a total lie, and I said dial 0, like it says on the instructions next to the phone and we will take what you want to you. Don't take from us. Queen Bee didn't seem like her royalty had ever been questioned, but she also didn't want to clean her own room, so she apologized. They stopped taking after that. I love IT. So we got a ticket this morning about this company's bookkeeper not being able to access the shared drives on the network without connecting to the VPN. Having set up quite a few of these people from this company for working from home, I assumed the bookkeeper was offsite and trying to connect in. The email chain. Me, is the bookkeeper working from home or is she on-site? If she's working from home, she will need to be connected to the VPN anytime she needs to access any network resources at the office. Unfortunately there is no way around that. Is she having trouble with the VPN? Contacted company, she's not working from home. She's in the office and working on the desktop PC in her office and still needs to connect to the VPN in order to access the shared drives. Me, does her desktop have a network cable plugged in or is she accessing the network wirelessly? It's possible she may be connecting to the wrong network. Contact, she's not connected with the network cable. We have to use the Wi-Fi hotspot on her phone to connect her to the internet so she can VPN into the office network to access the shared drives. I have a network cable we can try if you think that'll help. Me, yes, please plug in her computer with the network cable to the wall jack that should be located on the wall next to her desk. Let me know if that fixes it. Contact, it worked. All we did was plug it in and it reconnected to the office network. Whatever you did remotely before we plugged it in worked. Me, glad to help. If I may ask, was her computer connected to the office network with the network cable before? Did it get unplugged somehow, or was it removed for some reason? Contact, it was connected before she left. We took the network cable out of her office when she came back because she'd been working off a wireless network at home and we didn't want to confuse the server. Me, well I'm glad it's working now, have a great day. So this is going back to January of this year when I started at my current job. Backstory. Mid-sized digital center, every room has a multimedia PC linked to a screen, you can wirelessly cast to them and they are controlled by an Android panel embedded in the walls. The Android panel communicates with a brain that can then send commands via serial to whatever devices it needs to control. It sends these commands over the LAN. So we have these tech contractors out trying to solve an issue. Apparently, this had been going on for months. One of our controllers would lose connection to the brain it's assigned to, resulting in a loss of control of the room. For months the brain had been RMA'd and tested over and over again. At the supplier's workbench it worked fine, on-site it would stop working after a period of time. I decided that I would spend my time trying to help them out, and I noticed that in the logs the brain was spewing out, they were time-stamped with dd.m.2015 at hh.m.ss. I pointed this out to the tech, who said it shouldn't matter, but the connection the controller and brain require an SSL certificate to link, which is only valid for a certain time frame. The brain thinks it's 2015, the controller is set to 2020. It turns out that another supplier, our networking installer, had blocked access to pool.ntp, a time server, that all of our devices used. Apparently this brain just has really bad time precision / a bad crystal, or can't save time, hence 2015. Still wrapping my head around why you'd block access to a time server. It's been resolved now, but it's such a bizarre issue, I'm still convinced our network is haunted. Obligatory sorry I'm on mobile. A year ago I went to the mall, wanting to get some makeup as a gift for a friend. She was really getting into drag makeup, so I thought it was a good idea. Now, makeup can be expensive, and I didn't have that much money, so I went into a famous makeup chain that I can say has low to mid prices. I asked the only employee there for some advice, and I got an eyebrow kit, a contouring kit and an eyeshadow. I wanted to get more but my budget was spent. I go pay, and the employee looks at what I got and exclaims, "What? That's it?" I honestly wanted for the ground to swallow me. She said how it wasn't enough for the type of makeup my friend likes, and I just shrugged. I was honestly so uncomfortable, I just wanted to pay and march away. She kind of glared at me and rang me up, and I quickly thanked her and left. It is honestly the most awkward encounter I ever had with an employee. I know a Kavina which I might be related to. I mean, she's a complete Karen, but that's a story for another time. So she's not the brightest when it comes to logic, plus she has zero knowledge of electricity despite working at a power company and despite my efforts to teach her. She hates waves. She used to be afraid of Wi-Fi, but we got a router after some struggle. She's super scared of 5G too, of course. Before that she was scared of Bluetooth. 10 years ago she was the person that showed you the video of the 4 phones calling each other and popping a kernel of corn in the middle. A couple months ago she came home super happy telling that she got a radio wave beauty treatment on the face, that it felt hot and tingly and she has multiple appointments to attend in the future. Say that again, but slowly. Like, yeah, that's exactly what you fear from Wi-Fi and 5 grams, but this time it's actually powerful enough for you to feel it, god darn it. Work in an online training firm. Sometimes we get calls for people who can't remember their password or have to change their details, etc. Guy, I can't remember my username, password, and when my ex-wife tries to find out it keeps bringing up hers. I can tell that he hadn't tried logging in yet, because our website only uses emails and passwords. So I suggest he try the forgot password tool as that'll email it to him. Me, sounds like the autocomplete on her laptop is logging you into her account. Try clearing out whatever it auto-types in and put your email address in instead into the forgot password field. Guy, so you're not willing to help me? I'm at work right now. Me, I chuckle thinking that he's joking, as every office that calls us is doing the training from work, using office computers. I ask if he can't use a work computer to give this a shot, or maybe use a cell phone with a browser? Maybe even put me on speaker to try it on the phone we're currently talking on. Guy, are you laughing at me? I can't believe this. Me, no, just trying to lighten the conversation, sorry about that. Now are you able to get on our website while we're chatting? Guy, no, I'm at work. Me, okay, because most of our clients are calling us from work, so I'm sorry for the confusion. Do you have another device there with a browser, like another cell phone or laptop you can use? I need you on the site while we fix this so we can test things out. Guy, no, I'm at work. Me, can't help but let out a little chuckle, still can't believe the situation and apologize and try to transfer the call to someone fresh. He's not on the line when they answer. I'm a courtroom assistant in a Southeast Asian country. I'd rather not get much further than that on identifying information. We do both security and practical assistance like moving displays, escorting juries, and some ceremonial stuff as well. This was the sentencing of an evil flip on several high crime offenses, similar to what a capital offense may be in America. Here high crime is the level above criminal offense, or felony for the rest of the world. He stalked, kidnapped, raped, and murdered a locally famous and growing pop artist who was pregnant. He was charged with stalking, high crime kidnapping, high crime rape, high crime murder, high crime fetal homicide, and a bunch of other stuff. Evil Flip, as he will be referred to from here on out, was on suicide precautions as he made threats against his own life in prison, so he was in spiffy paper clothes. We were well into victim impact statements. The victim had a large family and there were something like 35 individuals addressing the court. We're something like 28 statements into it. Next up was Granddad. These are always really emotional, families are always really upset for good reason, but this 80-plus old guy is the worst I can remember. He was crying, breathing heavily, shaking, the entire sentencing. He was called to make his statement, starts walking up, about past the counsel table. He then turns, tackles the attorneys and Evil Flip. He didn't get much in on the Evil Flip, maybe a kick and 2 punches before 15 of us pile up on him. He was taken into custody, and it quickly became apparent that Evil Flip got what was coming. Evil Flip is screaming and gagging for about 20 seconds, then he starts convulsing, came back in about 2 minutes choking/gagging, really bad. We put him on his side and get an ambulance on the way. The rest of the gallery was evacuated and court went into recess. By time the ambulance arrives he's not breathing, only twitching and has no pulse. They do CPR, take him out to the hospital. He was revived and died later that day. Coroner's report said his brainstem was damaged, his skull was broken, and brain herniated through break in his skull. The granddad was interviewed by national police who have jurisdiction of courts. He said that he'd been planning that for days, he felt no remorse, said if he had time he would have killed the attorneys too. It also came out that the granddad was in my country's mob back in the day, had 40 years in prison prior for drowning someone in petrol and lighting their corpse on fire. He was suspected but not confirmed to be involved in several other high-profile murders. He was charged with murder, conspiracy, contempt of court, and 2x simple battery for the attorneys. He was found not guilty of everything except contempt of court, to which he was originally sentenced to 4 years but it was reduced to terminal probation with home confinement due to his health. Not today but yesterday. After an enjoyable time in the bedroom we decided to take a shower together. Well, after a bit she asked to switch spots. And of course a smart person would step out and back in as it is a smaller tub/shower. I tried to slide past my wife, my feet slip, I grabbed the shower curtain rod, ripping it off the wall and falling out of the tub, landing on my back, head smacking the door frame, missing the toilet and a small stainless garbage can. Then my wife lands on top of me. Needless to say I still have a headache and my neck and upper back are really sore. Wife now has a bruise on her hip and arm, also is a little sore as well. Best part, she had a doctor's appointment today who sees the bruise on her arm. She tells him the story. His response is put adhesive pads down in the tub for traction. DLDR, me and the wife shower together. I fall out of the shower backward. This happened many years ago, when I was a 911 operator and a dispatcher. We received a call in the dead of summer from a landlord who lived next to their rental house. They said that they believed their tenant must have gone away on vacation, because they hadn't seen him for nearly a week. But he didn't arrange for the care of his 3 dogs. They could be heard barking inside the small house and had clearly not been walked at all because they could smell the waste outside the house. But being good landlords who knew the law, they called the sheriff's department to ask for assistance. If you figured something out already, like I did, my deputy hadn't. After telling him this report, he radioed back, "Dispatch, that sounds more like a call for the dog warden. Why don't you send him over?" I realized that I had given him too much information. I keyed my mic and said, "Sorry, let me summarize. Not seen for a week, bad smell." The deputy radioed back, "I get it. I'm en route." Poor fellow had apparently passed in his sleep several days prior. In a completely closed-up house. In 90-plus heat, and 3 dogs in there, too. The deputy never forgave me for that one, and said he had to throw away his uniform because the guy was a hoarder and they had to take the body out a window because they couldn't get him out through the house. And to answer the last question you may have, no, the dogs didn't bother the body. They busted into the bag of dog food in the kitchen. Sorry if it's being weird, the format, I'm in mobile. Also, English is not my mother language. For a little bit of context, we are still doing virtual classes and we are on the last weeks of the semester, so today we had the last class with a professor. What an excellent human being she is. As she was getting kinda emotive and giving us advice about everything we should do with our futures, everyone was so happy to listen her, so we typed nice things to her. "Thank you, Professor. Very wise words, we appreciate you," and similar. I like to type hearts less than 3 to compliment my messages, so, since the start of the virtual classes, that's what I've been doing. Today, I wrote a lot of hearts, like 8 or 10 in the same message. The professor reads my message, and just says that she wants to confess that since the very first day she was feeling stressed for reading the less than 3 because she literally read them as in less than 3 or a mediocre job. As the classes continues, she kept seeing the less than 3 and wondered if she was doing a very bad job teaching, or if it meant something else, but she never asked. Until today, that asked why the less than 3. Being so ashamed of that confusion, told her what they are supposed to mean. Luckily she laughed for the misunderstanding and was so happy to know that they were hearts. But the damage was already done. One of the nicest people of the entire department thought that during virtual classes, she was doing a bad job. DL, Dr. I caused an existential crisis in a professor. The Red Cross changed their restrictions on tattoo time from a year to 3 months, so I was good to go. Gave blood, felt great, texted some friends about it. Couple hours later, I text the same friends that I'm gonna have some of the edible we'd bought together. The one that made my seasoned stoner friend think he was dying. They had told me not to drink alcohol or caffeine cause it would dehydrate me, but weed doesn't dehydrate. No one saw anything wrong with this equation. An hour later I'm twitching, my scalp is on cold fire, and I'm cramping so hard I feel like I'm giving birth. My body doesn't know what to do, so it just says no. Spend the next hour calling people and asking them if I'm gonna die. They all say no, but instead of being calmed I'm convinced they're all in on it. My poor roommate helps. I am in so much pain. Go to bed somehow, puke it all up at 4:30 a.m. Wake up still woozy. TLDR, took my first edible after giving blood. Don't do that. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about TJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ, and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. Tifu, obligatory. This happened over the last few years. TL/doctor at the end. So, I have a loft bed, like a bunk bed without the bottom half, and I used to keep cups of water up there with a cup holder my dad made. When I noticed my cat was constantly drinking out of it. So I decided to go to the dollar store and buy him his own cup. A large plastic Hello Kitty cup was now in a basket attached to my bed. Gradually, he learned that this was his cup. Because he is too lazy to get down from my bed and into the basement to get his water out of a bowl, he started to only drink out of his cup. It's been about 3.5 years now and I have never seen him drink out of the water bowl, despite me moving it up to my bedroom as my cats mainly hang out there, only his cup. And when it's empty he lets me know by scratching at it and sometimes knocking over what water is left onto my bed and the floor. He also gets annoyed when my other cats drink from his cup. He hit his sister when he saw her drinking from it. I have no idea how to get him to drink out of the bowl again. I tried taking the cup away but that just made him angry and scratch at my basket and meow. Still love him though. TL/doctor, my cat only drinks out of a Hello Kitty cup because he was always drinking out of mine, so I got him his own. I have not seen him drink out of the water bowl in about 3.5 years, and I don't know how to retrain him to drink out of his bowl again. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. This happened a few weeks ago right after they ended a large part of the lockdown here. First part of the story starts at the pool. My GF, 3-year-old daughter and I went for a swim close to closing time since it's real quiet then. After we got dressed again we unlocked the stall and our daughter, who is always super excited, jumps out, sees a girl that's a bit older and directly runs towards her to hug her. Been a while since she saw other kids during lockdown. The girl is really startled and jumps back, and we tell our daughter to not just go and hug everybody. But no harm done, she comes back to us, the other kid runs off as well. The next day we play Doctor, the innocent game with Dr. Toys OFC. When she asks me if I'm sick I say yes, very sick, so she can use her toys to examine me. She then asks, are you sick because you touched a little girl? Apparently she connected the hugging another kid and the whole COVID don't touch everything and everyone on her own. This was pretty funny for me and my girlfriend obviously, but then. A week later I was at a store with my daughter. Her uncle was supposed to babysit for a bit the next day but he got sick so could not come over. So I tell her he won't come to babysit the next day because he's sick and she immediately replies, is he sick because he touched little girls? Obviously everyone around us instantly stares at us. DL. Dr. Tifu by telling my daughter not to hug another kid so she thinks her uncle is sick because he touches little girls. It was towards the end of the night after working both the bar and the dining room by myself, with help from my manager, thank God. Less than 15 minutes before last call on allowing dine-in, a party of 3 come in. I clench my teeth and attend to their table. I quickly and hastily get their drinks so I can start closing stuff down ASAP. They don't really pay attention to this, even though they're the only table in the whole place. Apparently, while I'm taking their food order, one of the cooks have come out of the kitchen briefly and overheard this exchange. Woman at the table says, "What are you for birthdays?" She glances pointedly at one of the 2 guys. Without really thinking but still knowing full well I have no patience for such things, I turn to the guy and deadpan, "Happy birthday." I turn to the rest of the table. "Is there anything else I can get for you guys?" I should point out that we also don't have anything special for birthdays unless you sign up for our rewards program the year prior. Another thank you to the man upstairs. They chuckle at my bluntness, and the woman asks, "Can you guys sing to him or something?" I reply, "Ma'am, it's just me, and I'm not really feeling like singing by myself." They laugh at that. I leave the table and enter the kitchen to find out that the one cook who had heard our conversation shared it with the entire kitchen. Everyone was doubled over laughing, even my manager. Definitely made my night worthwhile in the end. I'm a 24-year-old female and I've worked at a health food gas station for a little over 2 years. Despite our granola off-kilter front I deal with all the typical harassment and rude customers, but recently the unwanted male attention has increased tenfold. This past Friday the driver who brings the bulk of our dry and cooler goods, who I've interacted cordially with for 2 years, lost his darn mind. My manager was at the bank so I was essentially alone with delivery guy. Cue all the borderline inappropriate questions almost every woman experiences. I tell him I have a boyfriend, I tell him no, I don't want to cheat on my boyfriend with you, no, I will not give you my number. Then I have a big rush of customers and have to swallow all the anger and fear this conversation instilled in me. The main issue being, I'll be off work next week, maybe I'll come by and see you, hopefully your manager won't be around trying to keep me from talking to you. Then shaking my hand, aka holding it for an extended amount of time as I'm in shock and don't yank my hand away like I know I should. All this from a 40-plus-year-old man who knows I am not at all interested in him and I've seen weekly for years and essentially labeled safe. Now here's the real kicker. Once my manager returns I relay all this and my fear obviously that this man shares some grand delusion and does not understand rejection or perhaps reality, and my manager's response is, "We'll have to see what the owner wants to do and maybe I'll just have to get ugly." No real solutions here, which is not new. I've been told in the past the harassment I get from men is a self-made issue. I guess I just have to work on turning off the customer service smile if he comes back to harass me and really kick this creep in the balls his pride. Trying not to obsess over it or live in fear and working on my ability to shut the daily creeps down instead of smiling and nodding on autopilot fight or flight response. DL, Doctor, inappropriate delivery man can't take no for an answer. Even if he doesn't come in off the clock this week I know I'll have to see him next Friday. Yippee. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. So I needed a headlight bulb for my car and I went to generic chain auto parts store after work. My work uniform is a generic red polo and tan tack pants, black boots. The same as the auto parts store. I also had my earbuds in for music. Since I have a medical condition I usually have my service dog with me, but it was a quick trip so I figured I'd be okay without him and using music to help me. I go to the headlight section and I'm googling what kind of bulb my car needs. Enter Karen. Excuse me. I think she just needs me out of her way to get whatever she needs or to pass, so I back up and move a few steps away from her. Excuse me. This time I think she's wanting to pass me, but social distancing is a thing, so I decide to take a lap around the aisle. Excuse me. It's louder this time, maybe I'm not walking fast enough, so I speed up. She grabs my shoulder. I don't particularly care for being touched ever, and certainly not by strangers in a store. I duck/dodge, pulling away from her, then stare appalled. "Kay, I need you to help me find a wiper." Me, I don't work here, but they're right here. "Kay, I drive a 2017 Honda." Me, I don't work here. "Kay, just because you took your name tag off doesn't mean you don't work here. So I have a Honda Pilot, I need wiper." I start to just walk away, Karen grabs my arm. "Kay, I'm talking to you. You can't just walk away." Me, "Lady, I don't work here. The front can help you, Google can help you. I cannot." "Kay, you obviously work here. You're wearing the uniform." I try to just walk away again, and she grabs my arm, so I start screaming. This got the attention of someone who actually works there. "Worker, what's going on?" Me, "I'm being assaulted by this woman because I don't work here and I can't help her." "Kay, you work here. You're wearing the uniform, you're being incredibly rude. You need to help me." Me, "I'm calling the cops, you assaulted me, this place has video cameras and you continued to assault me." At this point the manager walks over. Karen continued to yell at him about how I definitely work there and how rude and unprofessional I am. I reiterated that I don't work here. Karen yelled more and I just walked away, leaving the manager to calm down the Karen. I got my headlight and left. No, I didn't end up calling the police, but I would have had no issues doing so. I chose to get home to calm down and since I can now laugh about this, so can you. At my last job, and now in my current job, I would have these mandatory performance reviews that include my performance goals for the upcoming year. When I sign up for these, it's with the express purpose of preparing for a merit increase at the end of the period. This never happened in my last job because they were always making bad decisions that left them scrambling to make ends meet, much less try to give people pay raises. In my new job, of course, there's been an impact from COVID, so I was told there would be no merit increases this year because there's no money available. Okay, I get it, and it's fine because I wasn't eligible this time around anyway, but for next year, they're already saying no raises at the end of this year, but they still want us to do the performance reviews and goal setting. Of course you want your workforce to continue to improve and to meet the demands of the job, but I'm doing that. I just get a kind of minor issue with putting in the effort to do the performance review, but with no payoff from me in it. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who feels this way. In my last job, it was completely pointless because no one even cared, not the employees, the bosses, or the managers. It was just a box you had to check, but here, it's like you're supposed to be all chipper about it like it's going to mean something. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of you 11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. To start off, I've known this one girl, let's call her A, for pretty much all my life and we're close enough to the point where our entire friendship is based off of insults. Now to the main story. So my friends and I were playing basketball and it was pretty late, around 7ish in the evening. I noticed that there's this girl walking towards us, wearing a mask. Thinking she was A, I flipped her off while yelling, did you think I wouldn't recognize you just because you were wearing a mask? Ha! But I get no response from her. Finding this unusual, I turn around to see my other friends cringing and one of them just looking at me like, dude. I panic. The same friend then tells me that she actually was a woman who was like 12 years older than me and an acquaintance of my older brother. And the worst part of it all was in all of the situation's cringiness, I didn't even think to apologize. TL, Doctor mistook a stranger for a very close friend and flipped her off. So I've had a crush on a close friend of mine for a while now. I, 18 meters, am extremely shy and not confident at all, so I always believed I had no chance. Last night we decided to have some friends over for a few drinks. I'd just moved into my own place with some friends so we wanted to celebrate. The issue was I had work the next day at 6 a.m. Now I've done this kind of thing before, I just drink a lot less, have some water, and since I sober up really quickly I'm good for work. The plan was to do this, go to work and then sleep when I got home. Since this was my plan, I offered my bed and room to my crush. She needed a place to stay for the night and I wouldn't be using the bed due to work, so I thought why not. The plan was when she wanted to go to bed, I'd go in, grab my uniform and then give her the keys. This however is not what happened. As the night went on, we both got a bit more drunk than intended. My flatmates claimed she seemed into me, so they fed me more alcohol and took me outside to tell me and eventually convinced me to shoot my shot. Which I did, kinda. About 2 a.m. I went into the room to grab my uniform, much more drunk than intended, and sat on the bed for a second. She grabbed me and started cuddling in, so I went with it, set an alarm for work and slept. I woke up the next day at 1 still cuddling. But to 20 missed calls from work. I'm still scared to listen to the voicemails and I feel like a complete piece of shit. One of my coworkers would have had to come in to cover my shift. And the coworker that was in would have had to do twice as much work to try keep the store going until they got there. I think I might have just lost my job, and I've let down the people I work with. I have no idea what I'm going to say, how I'll explain this. And if I've not lost my job, how I'll make it up to my coworkers. This is the first time I've done anything like this, so I'm feeling awful and scared. DL, doctor, got drunk and decided to cuddle my crush all night instead of going to work, now possibly lost my job and feeling awful. As he is going through puberty, I can tell it is a very confusing time, especially being the youngest boy in an Asian household. We are all open with each other and make it especially clear it is okay to ask questions. Lately I've noticed he's been more depressed and distant from the outside world. It's sad seeing him grow up to be the happiest little boy to being the saddest. I wish we could get him a therapist, but they are expensive. I don't even know if he would be open to the idea. He seems like his old self when he is with our cousins and or if anyone makes an effort to talk to him. He tells us a lot that he is anxious when taking to people. I try to push him out of his comfort zone, but I never know when enough pushing is enough. Anyways, he finally seemed happy tonight. He even decided to join the sleepover my sister and cousins were having. He normally doesn't do that. I know people always say it's wrong to read other people's journals, but what if he is still suicidal? Sometimes it's hard to read him because he said so himself that he has a difficult time forming the words to say how he's feeling. When I keep a diary, it gives me the time to write down how I feel and think about it. I know it doesn't justify me reading his journal, but I am coming from a good place. And he won't ever find out, lol. Onwards, one of the entries I read was about how he used to have this really good friend on Roblox. He talked about this friend's avatar and how he looked different. He said they used to talk all the time. Now when he says hi, even more than 4x, they just roll eye once. Then it said he doesn't want to drift away like the other friends. Reading this pained me because I went through the same thing. I have better social skills, so I was able to get through it. I believe in him enough to not repeat my mistakes, but there is still that part of me that feels like he is more fragile. How do I raise him right? I wish there was a way for him to make more friends in a safe way. Especially since there hasn't been school in a long time. I think my plan of action will be hinting to him about my friends. I think I will also subtly tell him about Discord and that people come and go for a reason. I won't make it obvious that he's read his journal. I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for reading this kid's journal. But please, I will take any of your suggestions. There has to be better ways to communicate with this kid besides reading his journal. I know I'm gonna hear from some of you saying if this girl is reading his journal, this is an obvious red flag and you're probably the reason why he is keeping one in the first place. I'm really sorry, brother. But maybe next time don't leave it out in the open while you are sleeping. DL, Doctor, my brother seems more depressed and I seeked out his journal for guidance. Lots of flipped up parents do this. It seems like it does give people insight on the situation. But a total invasion of privacy. I swear I came from a good place. This happened today and I'm a little confused about the logic at play here. So the sequel to the book Bird Box by Josh Malerman was released in Australia onto Kindle today and I felt like sharing my excitement on Facebook. I'm not sure if she's a Karen or a Kavina, so I'll let you be the judge. It went like this. My newsfeed post, Mallory was released today onto Kindle. I've been waiting 5 years for the sequel to Bird Box and it's finally here. Karen, oh cool. Can I borrow the book? I really want to read it. I can stop by your place today. Me, the book isn't released until next week. It's on my Kindle. Karen, you what? Oh please, can you lend me the book? Me, it's not a physical book. It's on my book reader, which I don't lend out. I do lend out my books, but only to a select few people who I trust will treat them well and will return them. But this was a friend of a friend who I don't know and she couldn't grasp the concept of a Kindle. And why would I lend it out to a stranger before I've had a chance to read it? Beats me. So far it's an increased book and I'd highly suggest you read it. But don't watch the movie and then read the second book because you will be very confused. And I can't show screenshots of this conversation because it was public and she deleted her replies before I got the chance. Just happened and I feel dumb. So ever since the pandemic hit I have been living with my parents and I have been staying up a lot. Dad sleeps early because he has work. I was playing RuneScape and was doing clue scrolls, treasure hunt type of thing in the game, and sister told me that she wanted to open the master casket when I finished the treasure trail. Went to try and call her, telling her to come back down to open the casket, not realizing I was calling my dad instead. It's 5 a.m. Oops. Dad answers and I'm in complete shock. I don't remember exactly what I told him, but he just told me to go to bed. He's gonna be a bit grumpy when he wakes up again in a couple hours. Oops. DL, Doctor, playing a game late at night. Sister wanted to open casket. Instead of calling sister I called dad at 5 a.m. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer, excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager, I'm sorry love, what do you want? C, I'm not your love. Stares. BM, I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C, I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM, I didn't realize you had been waiting so long. What can I get you? C, well, I think this is awful. 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM, I apologize again. I'll get you your drinks now. What would you like? C, for free? BM, sorry, I can't do them for free. C, why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM, I don't think it works like that. Do you want any drinks or not? C, of course I do. Why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM, you can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar, I'm afraid. That's all we can offer. C, fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM, why not? C, because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM, well, everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either. What difference does it make who pours your drinks? C, well, I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM, well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C, are you kidding? Flip you. BM, flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting, followed by the bouncer escorting her out. This happened about a year ago but was reminded by my girlfriend yesterday. I needed a new phone, so we went to a local Verizon store to price out what a new phone would cost me. We got an attendant who came to us asking what we needed. At that time I felt a boulder of a booger start to dislodge itself from my nostril and start playing peekaboo with the salesman. I, trying to play it off, apologized and he said no problem if you need to blow it out, and my dumbass brain said okay, and without a second thought just held one nostril down and blew that snot bullet at the floor right in front of the poor guy. You could see his soul finally leave his body, as this, I assume, was the final straw. The biggest problem was we still awkwardly walked around the store as if nothing happened and ended up getting nothing. TLDR, poor Verizon salesman got snot shot at him and no commission. So my son moved back in with me because of the pandemic. He had to take a pay cut. This isn't really an issue because we get along great and I raised him alone. I also have a big enough house that he has more of his own space. I'm 43, he's 24. My basement is a makeshift boxing gym. I have some free weights, punching bags, and boxing gloves, among other things. So when my son moved back in, we both decided this could be a fun way to stay in shape and bond. We practice a few times a week. Yesterday, we were sparring, no holds barred, but we were wearing boxing headgear, and I guess I didn't wrap my glove tightly enough, because it fell off and I didn't notice, and neither did my son. So I go to punch, he gives me this deer in the headlights look, like oh no, and then I punched him, bare-knuckled, in the face, without holding back. He has a broken nose. I have 2 broken fingers. DL, doctor, absolutely let my son shoot up with a full-strength punch, and now we're both out of commission for a few weeks. Also, I bought new boxing gloves. And duct tape. I still feel bad, but he isn't upset, and we've been laughing telling other people the story. Posted on Tales from Retail, then found this place. Okay, so this story is not mine. This story is the one I heard being told between hairdressers while one of them was cutting my hair, my first cut post-lockdown, everyone still masked up and all. It seems that a woman had called up to ask about an extremely complex hair treatment / cut / color or whatever. I did not catch the details other than it would need to be done over several sessions over a day and was sufficiently complex that she was quoted £190. Given my haircut was £13, we gents get away with murder in the hair cutting business. This seemed like a lot of money. So the woman did not accept it at that point, but rang back later. She was complaining that some idiot had quoted her £190. Unfortunately for her, the person answering the phone was the same person who had quoted her £190. The hairdresser explained that she was the person who had quoted £190 and she did not appreciate being called some idiot and would not be doing her hair. Apparently the woman actually came in to beg her, the hairdresser, to do her hair as she was the best in town. She had thought she had phoned the other hairdresser and got quoted £190 and was referring to the other hairdresser as an idiot, but the hairdresser correctly pointed out she had not and therefore had in fact referred to the hairdresser as an idiot. Perhaps not insulting the best in town would be a good plan? She also wanted to get the hair done now without an appointment because she had talked about it on the phone. Now this hairdresser requires appointments for women's cuts, and at the moment requires online appointments for everything due to COVID. But the thought that she could be fitted in for an all-day styling without an appointment was impressively self-centered. I only caught the woman walking off and was then treated to the retelling during my haircut, but I don't think she will get getting her hair done there anytime soon. Happened yesterday. For context, I'm a recent grad, just moved into a new place in a new city. Had a huge first grocery list to complete. On that list I had dishwasher detergent. But when I checked the cleaning aisle at the store, all I could find was a bottle of dish liquid. So I thought, alright, this should do. 2 days ago, I ran the dishwasher with this so-called dish liquid, and it seems to work okay. My dishes weren't sparkly clean, but it worked. Fast forward to yesterday. I ran the dishwasher again, with the dish liquid, and then left to run some more errands. One of the items I picked up while I was out was a mop. Little did I know I'd need to be using it the second I stepped back into my apartment, because there was a soaking, sopping, bubbly mess waiting for me on my kitchen floor. I shut off the dishwasher, and to my horror, the entire thing was filled to the brim with suds. My roommate and I spent practically the rest of our day trying to figure out how to get the dishwasher back to normal. Scooped out as many suds as possible, used all the towels we had to dry up the bottom. We gave it a dry run, and the suds bubbles right back up. We tried running it with white vinegar, salt and olive oil, shout out WikiHow. But now it seems the liquid in the bottom isn't even draining at this point. And it just smells like mild vinegar. TLDR, ran my dishwasher with dish soap, dishwasher now smells like vinegar. So I am a medical assistant and usually I take a patient's height and weight and then I ask them to have a seat in a chair so that I can get the rest of their vitals. So today we had a patient that came in and he was wearing a cool shirt. It was gray with like 3 blue dragons and a lightning storm on it. I'm digging it. So I take his height and weight, and I go to ask him to have a seat. As I do that, I'm looking at his shirt and thinking cool shirt. So instead of pointing at the chair and saying have a seat right here, my brain got some wires crossed. I instead looked at the patient, pointed at the chair, and said have a shoot right here. I of course was immediately horrified and apologized profusely. The patient thought it was very funny. DL, doctor, I told a patient to shoot on a chair. When I was 17 I used to deliver for a well-known pizza place in the area. Of course Fridays were always insane and this Friday was supposedly going to be the biggest. Halfway through the night I got to deliver to a home for a specialty pie with 5 toppings. The bill came out to $35, pizza was deep dish when given toppings so the price was always jacked up, and was hopping for another good tip to bring my night to about $50. As I'm walking up to the door I can hear them trying to shush their dog. Usually whenever this were to happen it was common courtesy for the customer to come outside to avoid any issues with their dog. Well, they open the door and their 100-pound husky comes bolting out, jumps, bites my arm and then attacks the pizza. Luckily I was okay and very disoriented from the whole situation and wasn't sure what to do since the pizza was all over their front steps. They freaked out and continuously apologized. They informed me that they would call the store and order a new pie and pay for both and tip me extra. However, they sent me on my way without ever paying me. My 17-year-old mind was still messed up from getting attacked by their dog. Getting back to the store I find out they never called and we couldn't find their phone number to contact them. Got bit by their dog and ended up not making anything after it all. For the whole 50 of you who come here, this sub started based off a tale about a kind old blind man that lives on my street. Today I had a brief conversation with him on my way out for work that I feel is post-worthy. I was driving down the street heading out for work when I see Mr. Wilson standing out in his front lawn with a cup of coffee staring at a tree. Again, he is blind, so I decide to pull over and check on him. Me: hey Mr. Wilson, what's going on? Mr. W: is that you, clock? Me: sure is, mate. Everything okay this morning? Mr. W: sure is, just enjoying the fresh air. Me: well, good. The way you were just standing there I thought something might be wrong. Mr. W: laughs: yeah, I suppose it might be a bit strange to see an old blind man just standing around. Me: no, not really, it's just that. Well, mate, you're standing and staring right at your tree. Mr. Wilson cracks up laughing and I followed suit. We stood there and had a good laugh. Then he turns to me and says, Mr. W, care to make a wager, clock? Me: depends, on what? Mr. W: how many of the neighbors do you think can come by and question me about staring at a tree, between now and whenever I go inside? Me: laugh and give a quick mental count of how many people on the street aren't total douchebags. I'd say about 3. Mr. W: well, I say 5, so you head out to work and I'll stare at this tree, and when you get off someone is gonna owe someone a beer. I had a good laugh and headed off to work. When I got home I had to go back out and get a six-pack. Turns out 6 people checked on him. TL, Dr. Blind Man stares at a tree, turns into a bet. I'll start with some background to explain how this happened. I work as a server at a small restaurant, and I have severe social anxiety. This usually causes me to be pretty on edge and very focused while I'm working because I'm terrified of messing up. My boyfriend has had really long hair, compared to what he usually has, since we've been in quarantine, and the hair salons have been super busy since they opened back up. He doesn't really believe in making hair appointments, so he's been waiting for the salons to be quiet enough that he could just walk in. He said he was going to try to get one this week, but alas, I completely forgot. So today, I worked a weird afternoon shift, so it was pretty quiet the whole time. I was hanging out with the other server and one of the managers. Someone walks in to place a to-go order, and my manager asks me to go take his order. I go over to take his order and use my usual formal voice. "Hi there, are you placing a to-go order? What can I get for you today?" "A large bowl please." "All right, and what would you like as your base? We have them all on this sign right here." "Fried rice, please." "Okay, and would you like to add any egg to that for 0.49 cents? Do you not recognize me?" At this point, I look up, and of course, it's my boyfriend. His hair was even shorter than I'd ever seen it. That, plus his mask made him completely unrecognizable to me. I felt like such a dumbass, and he's still making fun of me for it, smiley face. DL, doctor, my boyfriend came to surprise me at work with his new haircut, and I treated him like a real customer until I realized who he was. As he is going through puberty I can tell it is a very confusing time, especially being the youngest boy in an Asian household. We are all open with each other and make it especially clear it is okay to ask questions. Lately I've noticed he's been more depressed and distant from the outside world. It's sad seeing him grow up to be the happiest little boy to being the saddest. I wish we could get him a therapist but they are expensive. I don't even know if he would be open to the idea. He seems like his old self when he is with our cousins and or if anyone makes an effort to talk to him. He tells us a lot that he is anxious when taking to people. I try to push him out of his comfort zone but I never know when enough pushing is enough. Anyways, he finally seemed happy tonight. He even decided to join the sleepover my sister and cousins were having. He normally doesn't do that. I know people always say it's wrong to read other people's journals but what if he is still suicidal? Sometimes it's hard to read him because he said so himself that he has a difficult time forming the words to say how he's feeling. When I keep a diary it gives me the time to write down how I feel and think about it. I know it doesn't justify me reading his journal but I am coming from a good place. And he won't ever find out lol. Onwards, one of the entries I read was about how he used to have this really good friend on Roblox. He talked about this friend's avatar and how he looked different. He said they used to talk all the time. Now when he says hi, even more than 4x, they just roll I once. Then it said he doesn't want to drift away like the other friends. Reading this pained me because I went through the same thing. I have better social skills so I was able to get through it. I believe in him enough to not repeat my mistakes but there is still that part of me that feels like he is more fragile. How do I raise him right? I wish there was a way for him to make more friends in a safe way. Especially since there hasn't been school in a long time. I think my plan of action will be hinting to him about my friends. I think I will also subtly tell him about Discord and that people come and go for a reason. I won't make it obvious that is read his journal. I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for reading this kid's journal. But please I will take any of your suggestions. There has to be better ways to communicate with this kid besides reading his journal. I know I'm gonna hear from some of you saying if this girl is reading his journal this is an obvious red flag and you're probably the reason why he is keeping one in the first place. I'm really sorry brother. But maybe next time don't leave it out in the open while you are sleeping. DL, doctor my brother seems more depressed and I seeked out his journal for guidance. Lots of flipped up parents do this. It seems like it does give people insight on the situation. But a total invasion of privacy. I swear I came from a good place. I know it sounds crazy to work in a call center if you have phone phobia, but I gotta make ends meet somehow. I happily worked in an outbound call center doing surveys and working as a pharma rep for 5 years, and didn't think switching to inbound would matter too much. I'm 2 years and 1 mental health leave into a fast-paced inbound customer service job and my heart still races when I log into the phone to take calls. And having to take calls back to back without any breather in between really drains me. Does anyone have any advice on how they got over similar feelings? I know this isn't a call center tale per se, but as this is the largest call center sub I know of, I thought it was worth a shot. Thanks. This happened about a year ago but was reminded by my girlfriend yesterday. I needed a new phone, so we went to a local Verizon store to price out what a new phone would cost me. We got an attendant who came to us asking what we needed. At that time I felt a boulder of a booger start to dislodge itself from my nostril and start playing peekaboo with the salesman. I, trying to play it off, apologized and he said no problem if you need to blow it out, and my dumbass brain said okay, and without a second thought just held one nostril down and blew that snot bullet at the floor right in front of the poor guy. You could see his soul finally leave his body, as this I assume was the final straw. The biggest problem was we still awkwardly walked around the store as if nothing happened and ended up getting nothing. TLDR, poor Verizon salesman got snot shot at him and no commission.